Hello, it's time for Combat Patrol Carnage. So we're halfway now through delivery 10 and it's time to start a hell of a model. Issue 37 brings us part 1 of the Helbrute. So yeah, a awesome chaos sort of dreadnought, but sort of not. I kind of miss the old chaos dreadnoughts. They were a little more versatile, I suppose, and a lot more lore accurate. These are more demon possessed machines that keep a chaos marine in suspended torture pretty much. And yeah, they're not very big compared to, well, the likes of the new Redemptor Dreadnought chassis. They are very squat, much reminiscent of the old Boxnauts. But yeah, they could be a lot better really, but still it's a great kit and it's a nice centerpiece for the Chaos Space Marine Combat Patrol. So in the issue we have our build guide for the Dreadnought. So he's a multi-part model, we're going to need glue, and there's quite a lot of optional pieces and pieces that share components. So if you want to magnetize this, you're going to need quite a lot of magnets and a lot of patience to make a lot of incisions for the hot magnets to go into. I'll point out a few top tips on how to best make your magnetizing, but I have seen a nice magnetizing tutorial which I'll try to put a link for another YouTuber, so check that out. But yeah, build guide shows us how to build the basic Helbrute for the Combat Patrol, which has the plasma cannon and the hammer, which is a good sort of balanced setup, but if you want to be a little bit more deadly, the plasma cannon is yes good, but the lasher tendrils I think are a little better than the hammer. A lot more attacks, make you more melee focused, so there's options, and options are always good. We learn about the path to glory, what it takes to go through from a lowly chaos cultist right up to a chaos demon prince. We have the finale to Dark Descent. We have our battle record for the Helbrute. We learn about deployment abilities, and we finally get the faction rules part 2 for the Tyranids and Space Marines. So we get our enhancements, secondary objectives, and stratagems. So we'll be playing a full Combat Patrol game, utilizing everything available to those two factions. So of course this issue included some glorious plastic, and it's these two frames. So first off, we got the main body frame with the missile launcher, one of the claw arms, the lasher tendrils, one shoulder pad, the various different heads you can choose. There's nice sets. So we'll take a close look under the camera, close up. There's some nice Nurgle looking ones, there's a Khorne looking one, even a Slaanesh speaker looking one, pretty cool. Yeah, main parts of the body there. And of course some extra bits of these smokestacks, etc. And on the second sprue we have everything you need to make the legs, so the feet, the actual leg assembly, crotch plates, and the pistons to go on the back of the feet. And we get most of the other arms, so plasma, multi-melter, thunderhammer, reaper autocannon, the spine to go on the back, and loads of extra pipes and canisters, so lots of little details to add to our model. Yeah, this issue is definitely looking like a good one. The kit is going to be fun. I'm definitely going to be building this one as per the magazine, but I have got a spare in my collection, which I will probably be magnetizing, so I have a lot of options to my war gear equipment. Before we hit the table and start building our Helbrute, let's do all the usual. Don't forget to, of course, like this video if you are enjoying the Combat Patrol content, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and leave me a comment down below. How have you equipped your Helbrute? Have you gone the magazine standard, or have you gone for personal preference? Like I said, the lasher tendrils will be one of my favourite options, and I'd probably go las cannons for a bit of more anti-tank, as the Chaos Space Marines, at least in the Combat Patrol, don't have a lot of anti-tank. Finally then, Combat Patrol Carnage is proudly sponsored by warbay.shop, your one-stop supply for all your hobby needs. They stock everything you need, from models to paints to dice and gaming equipment as well. They also stock Combat Patrol magazine. They stock little decorative oddities, artworks, coasters, pin badges and collector coins as well. They really do have the biggest selection of Warhammer around, so if you want to check them out, there's a link of course in the video description, or they have their physical store. Right, let's head to the table and we'll build our Helbrute. Right, here we are then with issue 37, so we can take a closer look at these frames. So we've got the heads here. We've got these rather two grimacing, sort of rotting Nurgle-like faces. I quite like this one where he's sort of breaking out of his helmet. We've got a skull-faced helm there, maybe a Dark Apostle or a Cornate follower. Got a rather almost Zinchian sort of looking one there. And then we got the one we're using, part 11 there. So yeah, these heads look really cool. Adds a nice unique flavour to each of the models if you're going to have multiples of these in your army. So also on this sprue we get the missile launcher components, we get one of the claw arms there as well, we get the main body of the claw arm, you get a single shoulder pad, the second shoulder pad there has two pieces, front of the torso, the actual main torso itself, the exhaust, and we've got all the lasher tendril components as well. And on our second sprue then, we've got the components for the legs, so the front and back of the legs, the feet, the front and back crotch plate, and the two pistons that will go on the back of the legs. We've got these awesome leg armor pieces as well. We've got one of a skull face on and one of a Chaos Star, looking really good. We've got the Reaper autocannon, we've got the spine to go on the back torso, we've got the back plating for the power pack, we've got the other combat arms fist, we've got the parts of the hammer, and we've got all these extra little canisters and cables. And of course the multi-melter and plasma cannon there as well. So pretty cool. Right, we've got all the components now to build this guy. So we'll adjust the camera, we'll look at our build guide before we bring in our tools and get building. So into issue 37 we go. First off, we're met with the build guide for our Helbrute. So it's a pretty in-depth build guide, but take your time with it and you'll have a finished model in next to no time. Read articles, we've got a couple, so we're learning about the Path to Glory, and we have the second part of Dark Descent. And finally, for our collection articles, we get the Helbrute's battle record, so we can name him, give him his title, and check out his abilities in game. Finally then, for this issue, we have deployment abilities for the core rules, and we have Space Marines Parts 2 and Tyranids Part 2 for the rules for the combat patrols. So we get to use stratagems, enhancements, and secondary objectives for the first time. I've already chosen which ones of each I'm going to be doing for the two forces, and I'll be playing through a game of Archaeotech Recovery at the end of this issue. So stay tuned for that. Right, so into our build guide we go. So we got the main torso, so you want to glue your face in first before you seal it up, otherwise it'll be pretty hard to get your face into position. We got the abdomen section here, we got the back, the top and the front gluing on. We then glue the spine in place, the two parts of the exhaust and the back plates. And for the front details, we've got the horns and the chest armor of the sarcophagus there. We can set that off to fully dry as we move on to the legs. So glue the front and back of the legs together, put on the front crotch plate, glue on the front leg sections. So we've got the leering face and the chaos detailing. Then we've got pistons and the butt plate to go on as well. And then we can glue the torso down to the body. Or down to the legs even. The torso is the body. What am I saying? Next up, building the Helbrute plasma cannon. So we have the actual plasma cannon itself in three components. We've got the power cell and the two halves. Then you got the upper arm and the shoulder pad goes on. Then we got this section here, part 6, which glues into the side. And finally, once that's all glued together, we've got a cable reaching from the back to the actual gun. So if you want to, you can also use a different part, which will then have the cannon angled upwards, which will make a nice little alternative pose to the model. And then finally, we've got the Helbrute hammer. So again, we got the 3 parts of the arm, the head of the hammer, the 2 halves of the arm, we've got the upper part of the arm and the shoulder pad. And finally, we got this power cell going on to the inside of the arm. And we glue on part 3. And again, if you wanted to, you could have a different part going in instead of 3, so you can angle the hammer a little better. And finally, we've got another canister that goes on the back of the hammer for added detail. And then glue it down to your base and you're done. All right, let's bring in all 3 frames and we can start building. So to kick things off, we want this frame, as we want to cut out the 3 parts for the torso plus the head. So for the paint guide, we want head 11, so we'll cut that out. And I want this little black, back piece that holds the head in place. So gently cut that out as well. Then we want all the armor panels that finish off making the torso. Then finally, we need the frame from issue 38, as we need parts 1 and 2, which are the lower part of the torso. There we go. Right, I'll get those cleaned up off camera and we can start gluing them together. Right, there we go. All our components are cleaned up. So now we want to bring in our front torso. Put a little bit of glue here. A little bit of glue just there, as well as in that little bowl. So we can take our head and we want to get that little dome into that bowl, and that will rest. You can angle it a little bit if you want. I'm going to make it look a little to the right, so it looks like he's looking down his plasma cannon. Then we take part 10, this little piece, and that locks the head into position like so. There we go. Next we want to run a bit of glue along, wow, this glue's gone off. Right, now that's cleaned out. So we want to run a bit of glue along the top here. And we want to line up these front sections here. And then go in like so. We'll glue these 2 halves together while waiting for that to dry. So we'll need these to be throwing away. We'll need these to be dry and ready to attach the 3 components of the top torso to them. So then we'll leave that to dry as well. And then we need to start working on where this is going to attach. So we've got these little ledges here, and they should just fit underneath like so. They'll complete the bottom parts there of the smokestacks. So unglue all the way along this ledge, and then gently press those together. I'll let that partially dry. I'll bring in our knife, we're going to scrape this smooth. where the two halves are joined. And we check the magazine where we need the glue, so we need to run a bit of glue along the front here, and then these two back sections here. So just there, and just across there. And we'll bring in our back, so these two go into there, and that large one goes onto the front. Then, as we've still got the malleability of the glue, we can squeeze too much. You can squeeze the back torso into its final resting place. So, should look like that, sort of like a half D, well, that way around at least. But yeah, there we have our finished torso. There's a few more details to add to it. So you want parts 18, the spine, then 24 to 27, which are the halves of the chimney. So we'll cut those out. So our spine is on our second frame here. And then the exhausts are on this sprue. So 25 and 27 are a pair. So I'll cut those out and keep them together. And then 24 and 26 are the other pair. So I'll get those bits cleaned up off camera and we'll be right back. So bringing our torso, we got the spine running down the center there. So just trail the glue all the way down. And then we want it to go the thin bit up the top and the rather thicker bit down towards the bottom. Leave that to dry. We've got the two halves of each of our chimneys to glue together. So each one needs to have the two little tubes facing in the same direction. Let's just try and get everything lined up as straight as possible. So now we've got our chimneys glued and dried. I've even cleaned up the contact areas. We can apply glue to here and the little divots there. Where the pipes will go into. So we should have the taller part facing forwards. So like so and like so. And it should be like that with a forward slant facing upwards like that. Just to make sure we get that fully bond. While we're waiting for that to dry, we'll go back to our frames and find parts 22 and 23, our back plates, which are on here with the plasma cannon arm. So I'll cut those out. I'll get them cleaned up and we can glue them on. So if we check the build guide, we want the side with just the 3 slits here, so 22. And we've got the slits and this little sort of bolter shell damage piece, which goes on the other side there, 23. So a little bit of glue on each of these back panels, and we can glue these in place. There we go, torso is finished. Well, we've got the last piece to do, which is our front section. So turn the page. So build guide tells us to use parts 19, and then we also want parts 17, the very front torso there. So let's cut those out. Part 17 is on this sprue with the heads and the combat arm. And I want part 19 here, the ostentatiously oversized horns. So I'll get those cleaned up and we can glue them on. So there we go, ready to glue these into position. So literally want to run glue all the way around the outside of the head and then all the way across our front torso here. Making sure we get it onto the ends of the pipes as well. Now we can glue on our chest piece, so we want it this way around. That goes on like so. And finally our head piece, so we want these little small spiky horns sitting towards the front. And that goes in like so. There we go, we can leave this off to the side and it's now time to assemble our legs. So all the parts of the legs are on this sprue and they're all in this little corner here. So start by cutting out parts 81, 82 and 87. Get those cleaned up. There we go, all done. So we'll take our rear section here. We want to run glue all the way around the outside edging here. We'll take our front legs and push them into place, wiping away any excess that we can get to. And then our front plate goes on just here. So we've got the 2 little nubs that will go into those little slots there, and that lines it up perfectly. Next we want parts 85 and 86, the feet. So these 2 pieces here, and we'll cut out the shin guards as well. So I'll clean those up off camera and we can attach them to our model. There we go, all done. So first off, we want to make sure we got our feet ready. I don't think there's a particular side. We'll just double check, but I think so. Yeah, I don't think it matters which one goes on which foot. They're all pretty much the same. We'll go that way around, I think. So making sure we got the big toe facing forward. I'll put a bit of glue in each of these divots and the main hole, central hole. And then we can push the legs into place. Then we've got our shin guards, so these go on just those little holes there. And we'll sit like that. So a bit of glue on this top plate, and then a little bit of glue in there, and slot the leg into position. Do the same over this side. We gotta go over that horn there as well on this side. And there's our lower legs looking good. Set that down. We'll cut out the last few components, so 89 and 90 and 88. So we'll get those cleaned up and attached. So those bits cut out, we got to put glue in tabs on the back of the legs, and then in these little bowls, and then they should just slot into place like so. And finally, our back plate. Now we can bring in the torso and our base, and we can glue this guy down. So blob of glue on each of the toes. Put that as central as we can on the base, and then run glue around the edge here. And that fits in like so. I'm gonna, can we angle it much? Not really. So yeah, it is kind of locked into the one position, which is really kind of sad. We'll leave him off to the side and we can start work on the arms. So our first arm to work on is the plasma cannon arm. I'm going to kick things off with the actual main gun itself, so 49 and 50. And we also need a little canister, 51, so you've got 3 of the same here. That's because they are used on quite a few different options. So clip that off, get those cleaned up, we can glue them together. So now we can glue our 2 halves of the gun together. So run glue all the way around the outside. And then we got these nubs and bowls to help locate it and get it to sit flush. then just in there, a bit of glue for part 51 to sit. So it looks like that. We'll set that off to the side and we'll clip out the main bulk of the arm. So 28, 29 and 30. Which is on this sprue here with all the armor components. So I'll get this cleaned up and we can glue them together. So we've got the two halves of the arm here. So just checking which way they actually fit. So we want 28 going that way, 29 going like that. So we'll put glue in the contact points and push the arm into place. And then flipping it around to this side, run glue along the top there and along that little lip. And then we can fit our shoulder pad into place. Just going to clean that little bit up a sec. There we go, nice and cleaned up. A little bit of glue spilled there, that's fine, I'll wait for it to dry. But while we are waiting for things to dry, we can bring in our plasma cannon, and that fits in like so. I'm going to glue around the outside. And push it in till it clicks. So that's our main plasma cannon built. All we need now is part 32, the little bit of cable, and 36, the actual arm attachment. So I'll cut those out and get them cleaned up. So we want part 6, which is here. You could alternatively use part 5, that will give you a slightly different angle to the arm if you wanted to. And parts 32 isn't actually on this sprue, so we need to bring in that sprue there, and 32, this funny little shaped one here, cut that out. Right, we'll get those cleaned up and we can attach them to the Helbrute. So what I've done is I've got part 6 here, but I've also got part 5. So if we bring in the arm, we can see sort of where things will attach. So that will be more upward facing on your Dreadnought or Helbrute, like so. And part 6 is what we're using now. So we'll have that much more relaxed and firing sort of pose. And both can easily just slot into the side of our body there. So we'll continue the assembly as per the instructions. So you want to run glue down along here, in along here, and along the back of the sarcophagus. Then we can slot that in. A little bit of a gap there that I didn't actually notice. I think I cut it off a bit too close. won't be noticeable once we are built. I might even put a bit of sprue glue in there to fill it up if need be. But once we get this arm on, yeah, that's not going to be noticed. So you can glue the arm on. If you did use the other component, you will need a different cable. I believe it's 33 U's or possibly even 47. But you'll need a slightly longer cable that will go from here to the back of the gun. So finally then 32 gets glued in there and there. And there's our Helbrute's plasma cannon arm all glued on. Now we can look at his final arm, the hammer. So we continue with the frame that the plasma cannon is on, as we need parts 16, 91, upside down, 91, 92, and 93. We'll then also need 2 of 52, one for the front and one for the back. So let's cut out the hammer first of all, get the actual arm assembled. So I'll clean those up off camera. Alright, we've got our components all cleaned up. Bring our glue, run it along the inside of the arm there, and then along our flat contact points there. And we just drop this piece in like so. And the head of the hammer, run glue around the outside and squeeze the two halves together like so. So we'll leave that to dry. We'll cut out the 252s as well as the parts we need to finish off. Actually, no, sorry. Cut out 64 and 56 first so we can finish the arm. So back to this sprue. So 56, like so, and 64. Like so. So again, I'll clean these up and we can glue them on. Alright, those cleaned up, we can glue them on to our model. So running the glue around the outside here, and then we take this part and that fits together like so. And then glue around the outside like so, and we can drop in our shoulder pad. It doesn't really have a locking position to actually fit it in, but you do want it sitting sort of like that. Alright, as I was saying earlier, let's cut out the two 52s and part 3, and then we can glue everything to the body. So as I got the sprue of the arm components in, we'll clip out part 3. No need to show you how Part 4 would work, as it's very similar to the other part. It's actually showing you on the frame, so you glue it on and the hammer's slightly raised as opposed to being more flat. I think with our choice, let's have a look. Yeah, definitely a difference. So cut out part 3 and back to this arm. We want two 52s. So I'll clean those up and we can assemble the final parts to our Helbrute. So there we go, all done. And now we can glue on. So 1 52 there, 1 52 there. And we just glue them on. Like so. Bring in our Helbrute, run our glue. And the outside, push in our final torso section. And what's left is to run glue around the outside, like so, a little bit in the center. And then we can glue a hammer arm on. And there we have one finished Helbrute ready to unleash, well, hell on the enemies of the traitor legions. So one last thing meant to mention, as I said during the intro, I'll mention where positions are to magnetize this guy. If you drill through where these little raised discs are, make a hole big enough for your magnet to go in. That's pretty much all in line with each other. So when you attach the arms, they should magnetize and hold pretty well. The only bits you're going to have trouble with are all the cables. But really, you just want to sort of glue those onto the arm itself. Or if multiple arms share the cables, glue it to the torso in the correct position. You will want to, of course, look up the full instructions for this guy. They are available on the Facebook community group, so check that out. People have shared these already. One bit we didn't attach with this weird little tentacle, which sort of comes out from underneath there. That would have been a cool little addition, but sadly not to get used. Yeah, there we have it. Right, we'll put all those into our spare bits, and we'll probably use some of them for basing material later on when we get to that tutorial. But for now, our Helbrute is ready, and just needing 3 coats of black, and then we can paint them up next issue. But that's it for this video. All that's left for me to do is say I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you next time for more Combat Patrol Carnage. Goodbye.